Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments. Good evening, everybody. It's Friday evening. Apologies if I sound a bit nasal. It's the pollen. It's very high, and despite the drugs, my hay fever is still feeling it pretty badly. So welcome. Anyway, we are going to be looking again at the old Valkyrie. And I did find, or not find because I knew where it was, but the transparencies. So take a look at those in a second. I was also doing a bit of work research, just having a little look at things on the cockpit of the Valkyrie, specifically the ejection seats. They're really interesting. The little clamshells that they had, which were very similar in design to the ones used on the Hustler. The B-58 Hustler also had capsule ejection seats, these things that closed up to protect you when you ejected. But anyway, that all being said, let's get these lights on and get the other camera on. Get that added in. There we go. We'll get things moved around here a little bit. Get those lights on. There's one. And there's the other. Yeah, I don't have things in the right place here. Oh, excuse me. And let's put this. Why can't we do picture-in-picture layout? That one, shifted round. There we go. Okay. So what I wanted to show you was these. So these are the two different canopies for this. You see, that is the supersonic flight one, a la Concorde. And that is the one for taxiing to give better visibility on the ground, although not great visibility, I must say, from the looks of things. As transparencies go, actually, they don't seem bad. They look fairly good. The old Swan Morton test. They are pretty clear, and the distortion through them actually isn't bad. So one of the better aspects of the kit, I feel. We'll see how the fit is. Let's just put those back. So I don't get them cracked up. Put those over there. Right. There's some of this rubbish. Take a little drink. Good. So let's have a quick look at chat before we start. Out of the way. So tonight, let's see, Steve, welcome. G&A Scale Model Apprentice, Graham's Modelling Mayhem. We've got David Markey. We have, scrolling down, Plastic Monkey. It's a great name. Mark Start. That's all I see in the chat. Plenty more lurking. Do say hello in the chat if you are with us. You don't have to, obviously, but it's good to see you. Idwell Williams, nice to see you. And once again, if you have any questions, comments, things that you want to point out during the stream, just put them in chat with a big capital letters question or comment or something, just so that I can spot them, because it's a little bit difficult to maintain a good look at what's happening in chat whilst you're also trying to make a model and chat at the same time. That's 3 things. That's real multitasking, isn't it? It's just actually cutting off some of these little ejection. I don't know what you'd call them, really. Little nubbins, just to make sure that the injection process actually gets all of the plastic into the parts. Okay. Well, I have to say a huge thanks to the golden tub using Tammy extra thin on parts after I've cleaned them up. It really does make them look better. Yeah, it's quite a nice technique. Obviously, I didn't invent it, but if you've ever got a part, even if it's just a little bit rough from the kit, or it's got some little almost like flash that's not worth cleaning up with a knife or something, because that will probably pull bits off, or if your plastic is a little bit stringy, Tammy extra thin, or its equivalent, whatever liquid cement you're using, just apply. Make sure it is liquid cement though. Don't try this with tube glue or precision cement, because that has styrene in it, so it'll add to the part. That won't work. In the same way, I mean, it can be used if you've got a really bad part, but again, that's more with experience and care. Okay. Get current on the chat. Billy Riffraff, we have commenting in there. Yeah, so at the so I linked the Air Museum. It's the United States Air Force Museum in the US that has the remaining Valkyrie, and they have an SR-71 as well, and they often show them together. And the SR-71 is dwarfed by the Valkyrie, and the SR-71 is not a small plane, so it's quite interesting. They do look very cool together. Perel, nice to see you. How to effectively mask cone-shaped parts. Tapes for curves slowly slide down the cone. Regular tapes can't stretch on such shapes nicely. It's so the way that I tend to do it is if I've got a cone shape, I'll come back to that if I can demonstrate it actually with a cone. What I find is you don't try and you mask to the edge, right? It depends what you're trying to actually mask. Here, let me try and demonstrate that. Let's move this across a bit. Here we go. So where you have a curve, anything like that, I don't actually have any masking tape here. I just realised. I used to do. I can reach it there. So what I will do. Get a piece here. Is I will mask so if I want to mask the cone off from the rest, right? So I just mask along the line that I want to go to. Yeah. This piece is probably a bit long, so I'll do it in sections. Is one thing. So you notice how it's kind of bunching up because I'm masking along this line. I don't care about the rest of it. And then for a cone, obviously you then press it down, and you'll get little ridges like that. But that doesn't matter, right? Because that's just masking. So because this is the line that counts. So you see how that is going up here. So effectively the next piece you then start where it starts to slide, and then do the same thing. Oops. So you're effectively masking in little sections, but this line is what's important, right? I hope you got the idea of that, because that wasn't an ideal shape to try and do it with. But the trick is not to actually put it down onto the cone so much, if that makes sense. But so it's effectively, you know, you're doing lots of little lines and then overlapping them so that they're smooth. They're not quite lines because you're masking to that curve, so you are masking along slightly along a curve, but it's a much shallower one so that it can accommodate it. That's basically the idea. That is a great question, Mark. Yes, there is an update. So one of the things I wanted to do, rather than just do my own testing and say, yeah, it's good, is actually get some external testing done by people that already use a Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. And I just got that. So I'd sent out samples and just got the first stuff back yesterday, and all is good. So so we are it's ticked that little box, so now I can fully get onto the production, if you like. I've got all of the stuff now. It just all needs to be, you know, I've got the formula nailed down, if you like. So it just needs to actually, well, I got to get a couple of barriers to that. I need the labels, which I had to wait until that final test for, and I need to do the MSDS safety sheets in case anybody wants them. Not that they will say anything much more useful than a mix of organic solvents and what those organic solvents are. Which I guess is kind of useful if you are, you know, a chemist. But then if you're a chemist, you already know what's in Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. It's diacetyl acetone, isopropanol, isobutanol, 2-ethoxybutanol, I think, and something else, which I can't remember. But yeah, it's like 5 or 6 organic chemicals. All polar, by the way, I believe. Isobutanol is not very polar, but okay, let me get rid of me here. So don't. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, you should still be able to hear me. Just let me know if you can still hear me so I can carry on. Okay, you still hear me. Excellent, good. Good evening, Julian. Good to see you. So these are those big. So I didn't get to do any work on this in the last couple of days. it was Maria's birthday yesterday, so nothing got done then, obviously. Wednesday was Man's Model Moments midweek model meets, so nothing got done then either. So here we are, and you can see the undercarriage. Right, there we go. Going too far forward. The fit isn't bad, but we still have these pretty big seams on here, which need, and because they're big, as in big landing gear, they need some robust cleanup. I think that is the word with a lot of the cleanup needed on this. It is robust. Fortunately, most of this will be quite difficult to see because the landing gear is under that massive V-wing. So I'm just going to basically scrape these seams, put a little bit of liquid cement on just to get rid of the worst of the crimes, and call it good, I think. I don't want to be spending forever on these. These bits up here do need some cleanup. I'm not going to bother with those because they're all going to be in the fuselage. You won't see any of that anyway. I'm all for avoiding doing things that add nothing to the overall look of the model at the end. Very little point in cleaning up things that are then going to be completely unseen. This is one of the reasons I think it's important to check fit of parts, because sometimes you'll see, once a part is fitted, you'll have a seam or something which is actually butted up against something, or completely hidden by a join, or actually is part of a join. And unless it's preventing fit, there's absolutely no reason to go to town cleaning up something like that. So actually, that's cleaned up pretty well, pretty quickly. Missed that bit there though. That's one. Evening hobby time. David Edwards. Dan Asher. Welcome all. We've got to that lovely point of scraping. I do know some people cannot stand the sound that scraping plastic makes. They tend not to be modelers because if that sound bothers you, that's a bit of a problem. It's a bit like being a beekeeper when you're allergic to bee stings. It's possible, but it's probably not advised. Probably better careers out there for somebody allergic to bees. So if you do hear my phone buzzing, I think it's because the solar activity is quite high at the moment. We have that sunspot shifting around, and the old likelihood of northern lights. Excuse me. Oh, how's we gone? Is increased, and that is the Aurora Watch app letting me know. I wish it was a little bit clever, the app, that it actually knew where you were. I mean, it's not like phones don't know where you are, right? And didn't alert you when it's like not night. If you, it's no good saying, "Oh yeah, you've got like you can see the northern lights now." It's like, well, it's noon, so no, I can't. If I can see the aurora borealis at 12 noon, we have an issue. Right? The amount of solar activity is like earth killing. If I can see the aurora at that sort of time of day. I probably don't want to go inside. I want to hide somewhere, preferably a bunker. Reminds me of a Nick Cage film. I think it's called something like Knowing, where the sun goes mad. It's kind of very supernatural, but it turns out to be, in the end, a bit of a warning for extraterrestrials. And Nick Cage dies. It's not Nick Cage's finest film, but it's certainly not his worst. As we all know, the guy took some pretty ropey deals to clear some of those tax debts. Oh, yeah, excuse me. Did I decide on a paint scheme? No, the paint scheme. Oh, did I just knock that piece off? Or did that come off somewhere else? Oh, bugger. Okay, that piece I glued on last time has broken off somewhere. I'm going to have to retrieve that. No, I haven't decided on a paint scheme. The poll is still open. The poll will be open until this is ready to paint. That is the way I am running it. So it'll be right down to the wire. So if people want a certain scheme and it's not winning, or even if it is winning, but it's close, I believe the Southeast Asia scheme is currently out ahead in front of the B1 experimental desert scheme. And if you don't know what the B1 experimental, let's see. It was on the B1A. Here is the. No, that's not. We also get the Southeast Asia scheme. Why is that not working? No, the computer seems to have. Oh, there we go. Let's try an F111 in that. So it's similar, and it was applied in a various different set of formats. Let me share these screens. So this is the experimental desert scheme that the B1 was painted in. So similar to the Southeast Asia scheme. Actually, I think the F111 there is in the Southeast Asia scheme behind it. So it's substituted basically some of the colors for. So still I think it's only a 3-color scheme rather than the 4-color scheme of the the SEA scheme, which had, I think, 2 greens and the brown and black, I think, as well, on the sides. Or sometimes it was wrap around. It depended on the role of the aircraft. So I think those are the 2 that are going on at the moment. Oh, why have you got me in sexy gogs? You don't want that. Oh, God. There we go. So Billy, the options, I believe, were a natural metal, which I think got fairly low, like the Hustler. It was actually going out as the Valkyrie was coming in, but it's a what if, so it could have been. The anti-flash white, which was what was being preferred as the Valkyrie was first kind of set up as an idea. The Southeast Asia scheme, experimental B1 scheme, or a kind of more current sort of dark grey. I think it's called gunship grey, but a dark grey like the current B1B in service. Okay, gotta find the other part. This one we cleaned up before, so you can see there were slightly shiny bits. That's where we smoothed it with the liquid cement. Right, I think with that we need wheels. 51 and 52. So those are the front undercarriage wheels. Well, they do have locating pieces, but much like John Alex Phaeton, there's you can see the tolerances are not very tight there. There is a good fraction of a millimeter all the way around there, so it gives it a lot of wiggle room. Doesn't really matter, those won't go on until much later in the build. These were the aluminium impregnated tires for the front. The rear, you had lots and lots of normal tires, as it were. Well, I see. We get to do all the tires at once. So the weird thing to me about these, and I am going to take them off the sprue actually, is that despite the fact we have like pins top and bottom, they don't really align. It's a bit vague, like the pins are actually fighting us for the proper location. I think it's just a matter of wiggling it a bit. I don't think they're too egregious, so I think we'll be okay. I don't think we have to trim them off in the way that we did the front. So I've been editing a couple of videos at the moment, first of which is the B-26, the Marauder that I did on the 24-hour live stream, or not 24-hour like all in one, but the 24-hour build, which went out to 26 hours because we did a couple of hours at the end to try and finish it up. So I'm doing 26 hours in 26 minutes. So each of the hours of footage that I got, I've managed to edit down to 1 minute. So basically I've got, the most pertinent pieces from each hour at 4 times speed, which is still watchable. You can still tell what I'm doing. It's not like Benny Hill kind of acceleration. So you can see the progression, the build, go all the way through, and then with some nice glory shots at the end of the finished Marauder. So if you missed that build or don't want to sit through lots and lots of footage, that is kind of condensed version. A slightly different format from obviously normal video. And I'm also going to, not editing at the moment, I've also got a video on, actually on this camera. Just doing the unboxing and then showing it kind of obviously in use, because I've got plenty of footage of that and my opinions overall of the camera. Obviously they're fairly positive, because otherwise I wouldn't still be using it. You see this one, can you see that it's misaligned? Speaking of the camera, and actually what I should have got here for this stream, which I forgot, is the secondary lens to give you those really close-up views, which is one of the really nice parts about it. It had lots and lots of tires, lots of wheels, spread out that massive load. No weird and or historical paint option. It's not that Paul is being kind, Julian, it's that I have heavily stacked it in my favour. So you can only vote on the options that are there, right? I mean, I think if I just left it open, who knows? The thing is with, and it's a frustration of mine, so YouTube only allows you 5 options in a poll. And if you've got an image poll, it's only 4, which is really limiting, right? And then you have to go to an external poll service, which is, people don't like clicking links and going, elsewhere and stuff. And even then, if you're using something like SurveyMonkey, you're limited to 10 on the free service. And I can't afford to pay for SurveyMonkey Special or whatever it is. The paid option. They all have these options to try and get you on that. I would love to use, I can't remember what the service is now. Kahoot, that's the one. Kahoot. Kahoot is great for live stuff. Right, and being able to do polls live, so I could just have a poll now, or like I could have people voting in real time on something. We could do stuff, for giveaways and that kind of thing. But it's horrifically expensive. You know, unless I get a very kind benefactor who wishes to sub me to one of these services, they're just not available to the normal YouTuber, I would say. You know, if I was still doing my day job, then that would be a different story. Unfortunately, I'm not, and getting a replacement of the same sort of thing has proved exceedingly difficult, which is a shame because it's kind of something I would like to do, purely in the fact it would give me a lot more flexibility, both in the shop and on the channel. But it has not happened. I know a lot of companies are being a bit tighter with their recruiting. I am also of a certain age. You know, I'm not a spring chicken, which is a bit silly, really, especially in an industry which, you know, I do a lot of consulting, a lot of business stuff. I've got a lot of experience, so I could give to a smaller company, especially. I mean, even a big company, because big companies do stupid stuff. And typically, I mean, even these days, if you're with a company 5 years, that is considered a decent amount of time, right? And people hop companies a lot more than they used to. You know, there are very few companies where people stay for like 25 years these days. There are, and people do, but increasingly less so. So one of the things that I do like about these wheels, the italeri wheels, is that they are bulged. They're not just flattened, they are bulged. I don't know whether you can see from, maybe if I put it over there, over the black background. Can you see the little bulge at the bottom? That's quite a nice feature. It's unrealistic on most aircraft. I feel if there is an aircraft that it's realistic on, it's probably this one. Yeah, I mean, I used to use Kahoot in my corporate world, because through a corporation, the fees are nothing, right? You know, and if I was on my old salary, the fee would be nothing. But I'm not on a salary at all at the moment, which makes it a lot different. You know, it changes your perspective, how much income you have, and what you're available to do. Well, I mean, PR Pink would have been great, but fortunately, people voted for the US. So, you know, lots of schemes possible. You know, when it started out, it could have been anyone. Could have been anyone. Oh, it definitely doesn't have more wheels than a Gigant. I've got a couple of Gigants, and they have, yeah. Oh, there is a big aircraft that is bigger than this. Yep, Julian's right. Dan, the poll is still open. So, as you know, if what my opinion is, if you want to build an SR-71 in PR Pink, then you absolutely should. But your models are for you and no one else. Unless you're YouTube, in which case, you know, you don't get a say. That's different, right? Okay, it's come to actually build the fuselage. This is a pretty rapid build in terms of the number of parts and things, right? It's not a rapid build in terms of the cleanup on that build. Some fuselage pieces, massive fuselage pieces. fuselage piece that could be a weapon, I think, is too big. When you get to weaponizing things. So these pieces do have very subtle flash on them. And normally I would clean that up before starting. As it is, the amount of cleanup I'm going to have to do on these seams anyway, I might not. I mean, these ones, yes, because there is some flash on these. But these main seams, I'm going to wait to see what they look like when the thing is together. Just to show you how much flash there is. That was just a scrape there. Just got to push it down, and then it's quite a bit. Yeah. That was the flash that was on the leading edge, if you like, of that cockpit window. Oh, yeah, excuse me. Hay fever is a horrible thing. So this has an odd mix of, engraved stuff, like for the crew access door, which is very like an airliner, and then slightly raised lines, sort of old school italeri. Let's see if I can get some shine on there, just so you can see that. Yeah, I think you can just see that there. For some of these other pieces, so obviously these blowout panels for the ejection seats. I mean, fit of this actually looks pretty good. Looks very Soviet. That drooping nose, very much like a Tupolev Tu-22. Okay. Next question is, where's the cockpit? And the ejection seats, I'm not quite sure where I put them. Ah, here we go. Right. Move that across for a second. So this is a very simplified rendition of the cockpit. So there's our slightly cleaned up seats, so that seam isn't really seen, but it is not exactly nice, because this is basically the cushion seam between them. We kind of put a bit of sprue glue in there just to get rid of the obvious part of the seam. So the seat cushions were actually that Air Force red, which does fade over time to like an orange. It's not a really harsh red, if you like. It's not a crimson, it's quite an orangey red. And that sprue glue has dried. I'm just cleaning it up a little bit. And the only reason I'm cleaning these seams at the bottom of the seats is to stop them affecting how these things sit. Oh, sorry for the sniffing, guys. But basically everything in here is grey. And then you've got the black panels for the instruments. So they kind of sit like that. And it's a fairly basic rendition because, of course, you will see very little. You can see how much you can actually see through, even with no transparency in there. Once you've got transparency in there, it'll be difficult to see that even. So yeah, it's kind of an impression of rather than anything else. Oh, that's interesting. The fit of these is terrible, by the way. You know, you can kind of push them in, they go. There's no positive fit. You can put them at different angles. You know, they are dreadful, really bad, shocking, really. So, being that I haven't actually painted any of that, I shall get some paint. I think I'm just going to hand paint that. There's no point in getting the airbrush for that small amount of painting. But given that, let's move on to the next stage, because this joins to this. These come on and go in here. So and then that's a whole section. That's a big stick you can beat things with. So it's not going to affect any of the rest of the build at all. So we can go straight to the other piece and then come back to that cockpit without any problems at all. Let's move all these bits out of the way because these bits are big. Because now we're talking about these pieces. And the first thing we have to do is kind of slot these together. Easier said than done. There we go. But I have that black plane all the way across. We're going to make sure it aligns. So we don't want it to be misaligned as a single piece. The easiest way to do that is all the way from the back. So you can get these two together. They don't kind of want to go all the way. What is stopping them doing that? Kind of feels like one of these. I'm not sure if that's the actual case. Let's break them apart and make sure we've cleaned up all of this surface. You've got some big ejector pin marks here, and looks like that's going to be an actual visible surface as well, which is not great. Why they couldn't have designed it so this would not be. On a visible surface, being that you've got all of these. I mean, yes, there are ejector pin marks here and here. I guess there wasn't anywhere here that they could put it that wouldn't be visible. There we go, we got rid of it there. Well, that's unfortunate. Broke my scalpel blade. will press on, but I will need to replace that. Maybe I should have used a more robust blade. So we want to make sure that all of this edge is as smooth as we can get it, so we can get these pieces nice and lined up with each other. And as you can see, it's not really. Scalpel really isn't happy. I'm gonna have to get a new blade for that one. Well, that's conspired against it a little bit. Fortunately, I don't have a new blade, but I do have another blade here. And given that we are not doing precision work here by any stretch of the imagination, it'll be fine. In fact, it's preferable to putting a new blade in. I don't use a new blade for this kind of work. That might have been one of the reasons. We've got a big load of flash on that one. I apologise if some of this goes off camera. It's kind of unavoidable with the size of this thing. I just, again, want to trim these tabs in to make sure they're nice and square, because they've got a little bit of injection flash, is kind of preventing, not preventing them from being square, it's kind of going out at the bottom, giving them a little bit of a elephant's foot. That makes sense. So this hasn't been a bad week. I've got the financial agreement going through with my ex. Solicitors going backwards and forwards this week, so that is a positive move. Finally get that chapter of my life underlined. Oh dear. And focus on the rest. So I wouldn't say this is, especially again for its age, you know, it is quite an old tool now. Well, this flash is particularly bad. It's just because it's so big, there's a lot of it. You watch, we'll do all of this, it won't make a bit of difference to the fit. That's usually the kind of irony of these things. I'm also thinking about a series Aimed at beginners, starters, returners to the hobby, or going through to intermediate, I guess. Where I focus on really from the very start of a journey, coming into modeling or coming back to modeling. I'm going to do this without breaking the blade. And then focusing on individual techniques and things, because as we were talking about Man's Model Moments on Midweek Model Meet this week, and it's certainly in the green room, if not on the actual thing. We had Jen from Genesis Designs, and one of the things with any kind of tutorial type video, I've done some kind of that thing, but is assumption of technique, right? Assumption of some of the basics. And because any modeler that's been doing modeling for some time, oops, sorry, I'm knocking things over here. Any modeler that's done anything for a certain amount of time, there are certain things, certain basics which you take for granted. Like you don't think about how to tell somebody how to clip something off a sprue, for instance. When you're coming new to modeling, you don't necessarily know that, right? And actually, like with driving, you can develop bad habits if you learn wrong. That's a terrible, grammatically poor phrase in English, but you know what I mean. Any bad habits you develop then become muscle memory and stick with you. So it's worth, I think, at any level, reviewing some of those things. There we go. So I'm thinking of calling it the man's model method, because I don't want it to be like seen as, well, I want it to be a bit different from other people's tutorials, because some people have done tutorials out there and do tutorials, which is great. I'm not trying to detract from that, but I also don't want to say that oh, so and so in his video didn't mention doing this. It's like, well, okay, this may not be the way that everybody builds models. This is the way that I build models. So again, the method that I'm using, I'm not saying it's the right one, but it is a way. That's interesting. This nicely aligns now. If I could just, let's take your mobile. So there you can see, we kind of, okay, it's not pushed together, but you see we're aligning at the end there, which is good. Not so much at this end. That doesn't match. So I think I'm going to go, get you back on the stand. I think I'm going to go with the more difficult end, which is obviously the thick end, if you like, as correct. I think we can do more of that end. Now, I don't know how this is going, because these sorts of joints are great, but they tend to want to do this, right? They want to do that rather than lie flat. There's going to be a little bit of that. What would be ideal is to be able to put this in at the same time. Which, does it tell us to do that? Of course it does not, no. Okay, so I may modify what it is telling us to do here, because this is the underside of the wing, right? Because this will very much, keep us in place, I think. Does that fit? Kinda. Yeah. Okay, let me just have a quick look at chat. That's really interesting, Julian. Guy near me used to sell honey from local bees. The honeycomb gave me natural immunity to hay fever. Yeah. You see, bees obviously collect from local flowers and stuff. Some of those antigens, I guess, are going to be from the local pollen. That's interesting. I'll have to see if excuse me, I have to see if there are any local bee producers. Not bee producers, honey producers. Just want to see how these fit or don't. Okay, well, the good news is they only go in one side and only one way, which I do like on a kit that does that. No ambiguity. Okay, so actually the fit of the undercarriage into that piece is not bad and pretty solid, which is that's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. Okay, that's nice. So let's work on this piece. Again, I'm just quickly looking through the chat. About to start the FX 148 scale Sea Fury that I got from an outstanding model shop, indeed. Have you built it? And if you did, any tips for this particular model? I haven't. I haven't built the Sea Fury. I stole the decals from it to do the Gannet, which is the other. There'll actually be several videos out soonish. I can't make any promises exactly when. There's the ICM 148 scale Beaufort. There's the 148 scale FX Gannet, and then, as I say, the B26 and a couple of my other regular type of videos. So what we need now is the pieces for this. Right. Those. Where the hell are those? There we go. So we have the big splitter plates for the intakes. Okay. 15. This is part 15. Quite a lot of flash on that, surprisingly. And then this will be 16. Very interesting, it has much better gate placement than part 15 did, even though they are kind of mirrored sprues, which is weird. Why would you not have the same gate placement on each? Also, there appears to be less flash on this piece than the other. Okay, I mean, you have very basic kind of rough representation of a mesh here. Part of the intake. That's part 16. Part 16. Okay, so they've got these big areas. And then actually, the alignment is is spot on at that. I can't fault. Can't fault that really. You've got injector pin marks and you've got a big seam there, but the fit of that is okay. These ejector pin marks are quite egregious, I have to say. They're pretty bad. Also, that one was quite shallow. This one's massive. That's absolutely huge. No, I'm going to use my flat. You should not be able to do this with an ejector pin mark. Don't want to damage them, so I'm easing off on that. The FX C3, though, I mean, it's one of the new tooled FX kits, so it is the kit I want to build. I just don't really have a slot in the schedule for it at the moment, a reason for building it. I like there to be a reason for me to do a build. Whatever that reason is. I don't really have one for the Sea Fury at the moment. It is a kit I would love to do, though. The only thing that I don't like about the Airfix Sea Fury kit is the box. It's a flimsy ass box, much like their Bulldog, you know, which again, lovely kit, but the box is naff. Which again, some people say, why does that matter? It's like, well, if all your kit comes smashed up, then it matters. Wow, there's a massive effect pin marks. Doesn't matter, of course, because they're on the inside, but wow. Excuse me, please. Oh dear, hay fever. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Well, there might be a couple of people I would wish on. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't work with hay fever. Because hay fever is your immune system. It's effectively an autoimmune disease. Your body's overreacting to a stimulus. In this case, pollen particles, treating them as, you know, an infectious agent. So most of the medications and stuff are suppressed those kinds of things. You know, antihistamines. One of the things that your, I think they're natural killer cells, macrophages, things release is histamine. It's basically your body's way of, so body's alert system. So they're doing a bit of cry wolf, basically, your old immune system. It seems to be the side effect of that. I mean, I don't know whether this is actually related or not, but I don't really get colds. Maybe it's because my immune system just like goes mad the same, you know, instant it sees something. I didn't get COVID even when Maria was positive in the same house, you know. And yes, I had been vaccinated because I believe in science. But yeah, it's still a bit of a price to pay, I would say. So yeah, the flash on this piece, part 15 rather than 16, is much worse. Especially around this front area, which unfortunately is the more visible part. Okay, and the front of the splitter plate is a bit vague as well. I'm pretty sure it's not supposed to have that little step in it. Probably can't see that there. A little step there. I'm generating tons of plastic shavings though. So yeah, you can see bits in there. That's actually, I mean, yeah, that's a big old seam, but it's we can deal with that. We have to deal with all these others. So fit of these pieces, not too bad. Challenge now is, can I get enough? Still haven't done this before it evaporates. Actually, one of the problems I had with developing the thinners, leveling thinners, was as the weather got nicer, I was doing testing and it was really sunny and it was really screwing up my testing because I was measuring drying times for different compositions, you know, to tweak the final composition. And if you've got different ambient conditions, it kind of knackers all your results, obviously. So just want it to be normal, you know, or even like raining or something, at least, you know, just a constant, rather than the sun keep coming out and messing things up. It's one of those times, you know, it's like the sun always shines when you least want it to, when, you know, when it has the most negative impacts rather than positive ones. Like if you've got a 8-hour meeting at work or something, you know, it's going to be sunny then. As soon as the meeting finishes, it'll be horrid. It's known as Sod's Law. I'm just trying to make sure that this is the front, the splitter plate here is aligned with the center, which it does seem to be. I'm not too worried about, you know, how nice this looks, because we're going to need quite a bit of filler here anyway. So I need one of those little puffers. Hopefully people know what I mean by that, you know, those little blowy balls. Okay. Yeah, that's a bit loosey-goosey. Yeah, not convinced by that. Okay, there's another piece that needs to go on here, and of course we need the rear engine bit, which I had. There we go. There's a ridiculous number of 6 engines. $14. Again, you know, there is flash on this, and the molding is a little bit loose. Ooh, that sounded like a big Aurora update. But it's not the worst. It's kind of basic. But I mean, if you can do the Airfix Concorde, then this is nothing. You know, if you think of this like a vintage classic, then it's well above that, you know. But it is, you know, old school italeri. Okay, and that goes over there. Well, I'm also going to paint in there before I put that on. I mean, because you don't really get access to it. Not, again, that you can see really any of that when this is in. Excuse me. Again, the fit of the undercarriage isn't bad. Not at all. Which can't always be said for even modern toolings, so. Okay. That makes it, actually, I don't need to put that on this on, do I? So. Why is it? See, the thing is that that shape, that cutout does not correspond. Oh, does it correspond to there? I don't know what this cutout piece is really trying to correspond to, because it doesn't seem to be the shape of this. That's pretty horrible. There's not a mistake. There's no real indication of where that's supposed to go. Is it really supposed to go here? I guess it is. But that doesn't really work. Okay. Okay, I guess that's that then. Like that, right? Okay. Okay. Sure. It's saying there. Okay. Well, that's about as vague as you can get. Do I ever build ship models? Yes, I have. Well, that's kind of a bit of a fib, really. I mean, I built the Mary Rose starter kit from Airfix, which I think is a lovely little starter kit. One of the things I probably will build is the Shannon class. Now, my Shannons came into... No, sorry. I'll rephrase that. A part shipment of my pre-order of Shannons came into the shop today. And then immediately went out to the first 3 customers, because they only delivered 3 out of 8. The rest don't come in until the 10th of July, which I was a bit upset about. But I will be doing that. But generally, I don't tend to do ships. There are a couple of reasons. I mean, I have done ships in the past. You know, as a child, I did ships. Thing is, I think to do justice to the kind of ships that I would like to do, like, you know, something like the Yamato or the HMS Hurd, Bismarck, those kind of things, I think you need a reasonable scale, and then they get big, and the little parts are still little, and that also means they're expensive. And I'm not that into ships, so those are kind of the factors conspiring against me in doing ships on the channel, really, I guess. Wow. So mostly what you've seen me do over the past hour is create a lot of plastic shavings. Now, what I was hoping to be able to determine is how difficult, if I fix this all together now, it will be to address some of those issues here. And things that's really going to be difficult to tell, because it's really difficult to tell about the fit of this. So the next step is supposed to be putting these two together. And then putting the lower wing onto this. But again, the fit is kind of a bit butt joiny. It also wants to fold that way. Is that the opposite way to this? It is. I can see that working. Let's go that way. Kind of wants to go that way. So yeah, okay, I can see that. Let's see if we can clean these pieces up then. Thank God this plastic is soft. Or the softer end of this spectrum, anyway. Because if this was hard plastic, this would be an absolute killer. You know, if this was tack-on plastic, I can understand why Nigel would have binned his. Oops, sorry. If you're going to tackle this, if you've got one in your stash, just be aware there's a lot of prep ahead. So I think prep is going to be one of the major things for this, right? Look at that. The flash on that. That is quite a lot of flash on that joint. That is not insubstantial either. It's not like just a little thin wisp. That is quite thick. Feels like you're actually carving the part. setting people's teeth on edge with that. Maybe use Sea Fury as a basis for your series on techniques for newbies. Well, that reason to get one. I've got one because obviously I've taken decals out of it. Only the Australian markings gives you a hint on what the gun it's going to be. So obviously I can't sell that. So I do have a Sea Fury. So in that respect, I do kind of have an excuse. And actually, it would be useful for demonstrating several weathering techniques. So it might be kind of, a way down the line. But that is not a bad idea, Mark. Thank you. Also, the screw gates on these pieces are huge. You can see that is about 2 centimeters long. Okay. So there's a few things here that I think are going to impact the rest of this evening. What is the amount of bloody plastic shavings I have everywhere now? So I think these pieces at the bottom here this one with its poor general alignment and odd finish at the end. This, these two, and then this piece, I think all need putting together at the same time. Because I think to do otherwise is to invite disaster. However, I need to fill these pieces here, which I don't want to do when this is on, because that would obviously be a nightmare. Secondly, and I think also, once this is done, I can paint this. I'll also think I'll put some mesh in here. That's, a little bit better than that. Nobody will see it, but, we all know it's there. I think these all need painting. The I don't know what you call it. The heat distributing pieces, both there and on the underside here, I think are going to be much easier to paint now. So pre-paint, and then we can mask those off. This obviously needs painting, and I might as well do these at the same time. Then it's very easy for that to come in. Being that this will be an operational B70 rather than the XB-70, all of these are going to be white, standard USAF interior, bay interior colours. What this exhausts are for here. Anyway. So sadly, I think that means that's all the parts of the wings that I can do now, because I need to do all of that painting separately. The good news is that that means that the next installment of this, because I will do the painting and stuff, I think, off screen if I get a chance. But yeah, the next build session should go really rapidly, right? From almost, a bunch of bits to an almost complete aircraft, if not complete aircraft. So session 2, this session is prep session. Look at that. That's a interesting one. Wait a minute. Is that the other way around? Hang on a second. Just get these all on again. That all out like that. Just looking at this, so that goes like that. Oh, okay. So, italeri, your instructions absolutely suck, man. Because it's this side that has this on. Oh, look at that. Look at that. We've got a good fit. Marvellous. When you do it the right way, nowhere on the instructions. I'll just show you the instructions here. Nowhere here. So push this in. Here's step 5, showing you putting the pieces together. Then it goes on step 6. And it has step 7, you putting the two together, right? Which shows it in this alignment, right? It doesn't show you flipping this over, which is actually what you need to do. Now, I imagine that is going to catch a lot of people out. So, hopefully it's not just me being an idiot. But just looking at it, and you can tell, obviously, because there's the detail, the engraving and stuff on here. But it doesn't show that. It doesn't show that at all. And actually, it's so misleading. Because look, it actually shows this shape, not this shape, which has this additional piece here to direct you. That is so bad. So bad. It doesn't show you that being flipped. Or the orientation of this piece. This piece here. Because you look at it and you think, well, okay, this is the side with that cutout, right? That shape cutout that you see. But they're actually telling you to put it together this way. That's why they're not showing you it being flipped. Because they're not flipping it. They're just doing something, but they're not actually explicitly saying the instructions. Idiots. Instructions are meant to help people. That's their purpose. And really, the ideal scenario, I think Airfix do this, is somebody builds it, and well, actually, I think in Airfix, somebody builds it and makes the instructions. Okay. If anybody built this that hadn't been involved on the design team and could do that without having an issue, well, I just don't believe they wouldn't have an issue. It's obvious now, once you realize, maybe that's what they say. Oh, well, it's obvious. Everyone will know that. No, you can't assume that. Never make assumptions. Now, this piece, I think, is meant to sort of help align this. I'm actually finding it's getting in the way. I'm just going to slim that down there. Joins the fuselage. So yeah, atelier instructions, poor. Oh, hi, Taggers. Yeah, sadly I couldn't go to Tankfest. Unfortunately, funds and time were unavailable to make that happen. And kind of been a bit distracted with the old finalization of financial divorcey bits, which I know I mention a lot because it kind of has been occupying my thoughts and kind of defining a lot of stuff recently. For those of you who are bored of hearing me say it, will be relieved that it is finally coming to an end. I think I'm going to add some pieces of plasticard on here, just to help with strength of this seam, because I'm not convinced by this at all. I'm afraid. Maybe I add them on this side. Still doesn't quite align at this back. See? Only slightly out of step now, but it's still... So if I pull it back, it starts to warp the front. Because these tabs are kind of pulling. Which tab? No, it's not that one. Those aren't even close to each other. Likewise, it's not that one. So it's this middle one, I think. Although, it actually doesn't seem to be. I think actually it might be the front one. Make sure those are absolutely square. That one's not quite. There we go. So yes, if you do have one of these kits, it's a lot of prep and then a lot of checking. Check everything, double check. It's not just the measure once, measure twice, cut once. I would measure like 4 or 5 times. That's much better getting there. It is getting there. It should help with the front as well. Keep that nice and square. I mean, you shouldn't have to do this to alignment tabs, but that's where we are. Because the actual build of the kit isn't hard. It's the kit fighting you and the instructions misleading you, I think, that are the main issues here. I'm really annoyed at the instructions. Things that are supposed to be helping you. Oh, back at Tank Fest again tomorrow. Fantastic. Nice time looking at static displays. Saw moving displays today. Excellent. Oh, I'll enjoy it. Again, sorry I can't be there, but say funds and time. I couldn't take the time away. Oh no, man, that sucks. That would be awesome. Not at all, Steve. It's really good to see regulars, if you like. It's always nice to see new people, but you build up kind of, I don't want to call it a loyal fan base. That sounds weird, but regulars, and it's a bit like going to the pub in the UK. It's just like you see the same people. You don't get sick of them. It's great to see them. So no, I don't. I never get sick of seeing the same people. Not at all. Plus, I think I've said it on Airfix and Chill. I think of Airfix and Chill, my midweek model hangouts, the streams. It's that's my social life, part of the hobby. Which rather than having a physical model club, I get to do this, to hang out with people, to chat, discuss things. So yeah, that's kind of how I think of this online community. So I'm definitely going to be adding some plastic out here because look at that. It doesn't actually even touch. So I need to add something there for sure. So yeah, that's where that is. Now, knowing the amount of cleanup we've had to do, XB-70. So this is the 1/72 scale, which I believe is only tooled by Italeri. It is a bit of an old school. In fact, when was it? Let's have a look when it was tooled. I'm guessing it's going to be about 88. That's my guess. Get your guesses in the comments while I'm looking it up. When this kit was tooled, we'll see how well we did. Okay, I'm wrong. There are more than. Okay, I was wrong on 2 counts. So Italeri merely reboxed this kit. This makes a lot more sense, actually. A lot more sense now I've seen this. So originally, because AMT Ertl originally made this tool. That makes much more sense. That's why I guessed like the late 80s. This is actually a 1995 tooling from AMT Ertl, which explains everything. Explains absolutely everything. Definitely not a 2015 tooling, Julian. definitely not. So in fact, let me share the. Let's see the. Here you can see this is my boxing. I think it might actually be this one. I think it's this one, which is a 2011, no, 2008 boxing. What's the difference? Let me just check the boxes. Look, 1282. Okay, no, mine is the later boxing. The only difference is where the Boeing symbol is located. So mine is a 2011 boxing, but you can see it is new decals, new box, because if you actually go back, it's this kit. XB-70 A1 Valkyrie from AMT Ertl. Wow, look at that. Somebody has put the complete air intake duct. Exhaust nozzles, Armory do exhaust nozzles for it. Scale aircraft conversions do some metal landing gear. Those look nice. Those look pretty nice. Would I invest in them? No. I think it's worth it, to be honest. Especially, God, not £25. Good God. Yeah. I don't think it's worth investing in that, to be honest. Oh my Lord. Those are etched brass. You've got to be dedicated, I think, to want to do that. Again, £22. That's a lot of work to add. Yes, some detail, but not a huge amount. And remember that the Valkyrie, you know, doesn't have a lot visible on the top. It's got like just the tops of them, really. Extra Tech do a complete photo etch set for them. That also looks like a nightmare. Don't see a price for that, which probably means it's no longer available. And KV Models, I've not heard of them. They do double-sided masks for them. Oh. I'm not sure. To be honest, I'm not sure what these are adding particularly. I mean, wow, that is quite something. That complete set of ducting. I mean, it really shows how the whole thing worked. And You can see splits around. This is obviously around the bomb bay here. So ducting around the bomb bay in the middle here. Shows not a huge bomb bay, really. But yeah, a 1995 AMT kit does align much more closely with what I see in the box. I mean, okay, so the one thing I would say about the like, oh god, we've got me on here as well wearing these stupid things. Apologize about that. I should really go for that, shouldn't I? Sorry, I lost my thread there. Yeah, the one thing with having italeri do it is the plastic. So AMT plastic, I generally find it horrible. I find it far too brittle. I think I would have thrown it in the bin if I wouldn't, because I never throw it in the bin. But I would certainly have consigned it to the pile of shame. So let's crack on with some other pieces that we can do now. So these are the, what do you call them, winglets, I guess. Variable position outer wing sections. So that was Emma's question. I'm just trying to catch where I am in the chat. Really? Unbuilt Aurora model. I mean, you can still get Aurora models through round 2 now, because they are re-releasing a lot of the old Aurora models. But I mean, the thing is, with a lot of these old companies, I think you get the same thing that people get with Airfix, old Airfix kits, the sort of rosy, rose-colored glasses, because they made. I think somebody else mentions here. Yeah, empty is what makes it. You see, I would slightly disagree with that. I would say AMT, ERTL, or ERTL, however you want to say that, made some interesting models. I don't think I've done an AMT model I really call good, ever. I've done some that were of subjects that I wanted to do, obviously, that I found interesting. If they were tooled by somebody else, I would have always pretty much chosen the other one. You know, the kits suffer from all the issues that I've pointed out in this. You know, fit, usually a problem. Flash, usually something of a problem. And that whole loosey-goosey bit. Now, these little winglets aren't little, they are huge, right, considering this is a 1/72nd scale. They have some little pieces here. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So this came from the same sprue, but they're actually for the opposite pieces. So this goes on the other side. Okay. I guess it's, I understand why. So they can align them on the sprue like this, and have detail on one plate, so they don't have to produce a good detail on both sides. So I get it, but I just wasn't expecting it. That was funny. That is also a very AMT thing to do. Now I know it's an AMT kit. All of the cues are there. It's funny how you don't look for them when you think it's something else. How your mind leads you to. It doesn't associate it, so it's not thinking of those things. Whereas if you know it, you're just like, oh yeah, I can see that now. Even, and this is how sad I have become, is you recognize the kinds of sprue gates, the frames, how they're constructed. This is a very AMT sprue. You get a lot of pieces in AMT sprues that do this little half gate, and where they join like this as well. And they quite often have these rounded ends as well. Not that other manufacturers don't do that, it's just they are very prevalent on AMT sprues. And it's funny that you don't look for that when you're not thinking about it. It's a cognitive bias. But anyway, so now let's get the piece that actually fits and try and put that in, see what the fit's like on these little winglets, because they've got these little pieces for spacing to keep the shape, the aerodynamic shape of the wing, which I really, well, actually, that's not what they're for, but that will help in that. They're actually for the location of the thing. But I'm just hoping, wondering whether any of these ejection pins are going to get in the way of some of that. And the good news is no, they don't. Wow, that's actually a great aerodynamic profile. Look at that. That's pretty cool. That's quite a wedge as well. Quite a change in chord across the. You can feel it actually. The other thing that is very AMT, now I think about it, is this kind of fit, this kind of wing in wing fit, rather than like ending at the edge, like a lot of manufacturers would do. This kind of almost fillet. This has some advantages, but it also has some disadvantages, and one of them is here, where the part is thicker than the inlay piece, and it goes proud because you've got a bloody great ejection pin mark there. Like, so it's funny. I'm just going to take all these off. I think it's just good practice. It just saves any potential issues. Don't even think about it. Just get rid of the ejector pin marks. Again, this italeri plastic is nice and soft, so it allows you to do that. Whereas if you're dealing with actually AMT plastic, it would have been pretty horrible. And I'm not convinced actually that if you had a 1995 AMT pressing of this, that it would be crisper, because of age. I don't think. I think all of these issues are down to the original tool rather than wear, I would say, from my personal experience with AMT. I'm guessing that it would be pretty much the same. With the proviso, obviously, that you've got worse plastic. So I think this is a good thing. The italeri have done that. There we go. See, now that is pretty much flush. But it's still a little bit, and that's what that design leads to. It's a potential issue. Also, you get discontinuity and things like this, which is supposed to be continuous. So again, that requires some work. But so far, that's one of the best fits on the kit. It's the winglets. Oh dear. A 1/48 scale. I guess you mean one, not 2/48 scale, because that would be 1/24, which would be ginormous. 66.67 centimeters long. That can't be. Oh, I don't know. I'm just trying to think. This. That can't be right, Julian, because okay, the span between this, I think, is. Oh no, I guess it will be, because this is 50 centimeters, I think, between these lights. Oh, I'm making motions you can't see. I have two lights here. They're 50 centimeters apart, because I built this rig, I think, as 50 centimeters. I think. Or was it 60? Might have been 60. This is going to be almost that length, though, so I would have expected it to be more like a meter. Anyway, we are actually past the witching hour, so let me just check the rest of chat. Oh, I'm up to date. Oh, that's good. I'll just cover that one. Everybody's best kit build this year. For me, so far, I think it's probably the ICM Marauder is the nicest kit I've put together. I think that tops out. Just trying to think what else. Although I'm guessing the Gannet is really I've done this year. That's a difficult one. I'm still going to say the ICM B26 was a nicer build. The Gannet, I think, that is really tough, actually, because I think the Gannet in one way is nicer as a kit in terms of the detail and the bits that you can do with it and stuff. But I had more fun building the B26, even though it was on 24-hour stream. There were more, not difficult, but like bits that require real precision with the Gannet. It goes together well, but the fuselage, getting the fuselage together with everything in it is a little bit buttock clenching. It's, I want to say, the B26 kind of felt like that, and it just sort of clicked into place, as you probably saw on the streams or in the video that will be upcoming very shortly. So anyway, time to go. Thank you all for spending a bit of your Friday evening with me. Have a great weekend. Have a great Tangfest taggers, and we will see you all in the next one. Okay, thanks everybody. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye now.